If you don't know Alex Hormozi, he's one of the most prominent entrepreneurs and influencers out there, with a net worth of over $100 million, being only 33 years old. I'm a huge fan of his work and I consumed every video, podcast episode and interview every day for several months now. He seems like the perfect role model for all of us who want to achieve our dreams. So in today's video, we'll go through Alex Hormozi's 10 tips that I gathered up during this time that we can apply today to be maximally productive. And for each one, I will also tell you how I implemented them to my life, so you can get some ideas on how you can implement them too. Let's start with the most important one. One thing, all in.
So this is what focus really looks like. One thing, all in. You can write that down, you can circle it. One thing, all in.
When I heard that back in May, I was previously quite scattered across 24 different platforms trying to grow them at the same time. I thought I was being massively productive and getting all the potential upside and increase my chances of being lucky. And this is a very common mindset for new entrepreneurs. And even Alex Hormozi himself had 9 businesses at one point. But according to Alex, it's not necessarily how good the opportunity is in itself, it's mostly how good we are at capitalizing on it. Rather than external factors such as luck and timing, it's how we spend time and attention that matters the most. So that's what I'm personally doing right now. I stopped posting everywhere except for YouTube and also Medium because it's quite copy and paste for me. But I try to keep all my attention to you all the time. Second tip, advanced people never don't do the basics.
And the thing, and I've said this before, but being advanced means that you never don't do the basics.
Because this one is sort of a double negative, it can be hard to grasp first, but I give you a personal example to hit this home. When I started to make full effort videos, I looked at the most popular channels and saw time and time again these special effects, these beautiful shots, graphics and all that stuff. So I thought, okay, if I want to be where they are at as fast as possible, I should use effects and all that stuff. So I doubled down on Premiere Pro, trying to learn every single possible effect during a 5-day period and focus as much as possible on making it look cool because I need to prove myself, whatever. All I gained some small traction in the beginning, I did not know how to go from there. But then I got an epiphany moment at this New Year's when I looked back and noticed I was totally lacking the foundation. I looked completely awkward and preachy, sounded too natural and lacked storytelling. And with that realization, I went back and to this day, I focus primarily on 2 things. What I say and how I say it. And these are the basics when it comes to video, and I noticed that the best ones, the best in their fields, have it already figured out for themselves, but they also started out with simple videos and then gradually became better. So this is what I'm working on right now, and maybe I'll introduce back the more flashy stuff in a few years. And this leads us perfectly to Alex's next tip, which is volume is the way.
And what's interesting is that volume negates luck.
According to Alex, the reason we are not where we want to be is because we lack either a skill, a character trait, or a belief. And the last 2 is something you can do right now, but oftentimes we're not skilled enough. Alex's standard is volume and repetition. For whatever skill you want to be good at, do the necessary actions over and over again. And often we underestimate how many repetitions it takes to become good. And for Alex, he's done over 4,000 sales transactions himself, which is a lot. Even according to science, now referring specifically to Andrew Huberman, it's not how many hours it takes, let's say 10,000, but how many repetitions we do. And more importantly, how good we are at recognizing errors and correct them. And right now I'm practicing that as well, talking to you every day, preparing what I'm going to say, and also improve my storytelling too. And since I started to do so and love mistakes and negative emotions, I never had so much internal growth as I am now, and it's only the beginning for both of us. Tip number 4, become so good that word of mouth works for you.
If people aren't sharing it on their own, then it's not worth promoting. because it's not good enough.
And according to Alex, there are two alternatives to entrepreneurs. Either make a quick product and try to promote it all the time, or take some steps back and take some time to make an exceptional product so you get referrals and the word spreads. And this alternative compounds in itself, and there'll be no problem scaling afterwards once there's a genuine fit between what you do and what the rest of us want. And for me personally, when I started out, I was doing the first option, I have to admit. I prided myself on making products very fast and then end up promoting it like crazy via content across all platforms. And even when I started to make full effort videos, I sent out links everywhere, hoping that someone would click, but of course there were only silence. And when I took a hard look on what I've created so far, it dawned on me that I must make what I can offer so much better. And if the market, in my case YouTube algorithm, does not promote what I do, it means that it's not worth promoting. Simple as that. And that's what I'm doing right now, trying to be better every time for each upload. And this ties very well with tips number 5 and 6. And tip number 5 is don't do your best, but do what is required instead.
One of the sayings that I live by is that I will not do my best, I will do what is required. And the difference between what your best is and what is required is the difference between what you think your real best is and what your actual best is.
And this has honestly given me the most motivation to continue during my most stressful moments. Always when there is a subtle feeling of despair and I can't take it anymore, I always remind myself to do what is required and pride myself in doing that. And I believe that that trait truly separates people like you and me, or winners, from average people. Instead of hiding behind our best effort, we recognize when it's not enough and simply adapt to it, which has served Alex Hormozi pretty well. But now you might ask, how am I supposed to be the best version of myself and make something exceptional? And this is where tip number 6 comes in, which is prioritize.
Priorities mean two things cannot be equally important.
And just realizing that we have limited time and attention makes us aware of how we spend it. And still today, I'm often shocked at how many times I find myself doing activities that are kind of distractional and meaningful. All that has become a lot better in the last few months. And that's what productivity is. We remove everything except what you want to do at the given moment. And the moment I personally decide to give up something, like for real, it is often correlated with the highest bumps in personal growth, since you can reallocate all that extra spare attention, stuff like that, to the main thing and realize that there could be so much more that you haven't really seen before, but now it's blatantly obvious, let's call it that. Number 7 is quite a big one. Remove shoulds.
If we want to be enduring entrepreneurs, we want to be people who have resilience, we must be careful about the things that we label.
And as Alex says, it's so easy to be in our own heads and most often be our worst enemies, freaking out whenever something happens that we don't like. But as long as we recognize that pretty much everything we feel is good, we can remove this mental barrier to productivity. And I've even taken it one step further and start to appreciate those hard moments. Appreciate whenever I grab my chin or arm whenever I feel stress, and appreciate whenever there's a scary feeling in my chest. And that's a signal that I'm growing, I'm evolving and extending my capacity, and it feels so much better afterwards. Number 8, this one was quite life-changing for me too. Get status by giving more to the group and do the right thing.
If you want to gain status, the way you do it is by sacrificing more for the group than everyone else does.
And I have to admit to you that I always liked status and gained some actually from being one of the world's top players in Pokemon Go at one point. But instead of trying to impress, which can backfire, Alex's tips definitely make sense. So hopefully with the daily conversations we have, we can together elevate our own status. Number 9, simple scales, fancy fails.
I get the entrepreneur to do less. I get the business to do fewer things. Because simple, you can write this down. Write this down, everyone. Simple scales, fancy fails.
And this one is also a phrase I repeat often, especially when it comes to productivity. Back in 2020, I prided myself with this perfect GTD system that I spent 2 hours every day to maintain, crazy I know. But it was only when I started to put out work to the world and doing that at a faster and better pace that I realized how many aspects of the productivity system I could remove because it wasn't necessary. I don't need weekly reviews or for clarification sessions and dreamlining and all that stuff. All I needed to do was a simple calendar, a to-do list, and some note-taking app. And other than that, focus fully on my work instead. So ideally, I want to be constantly moving with some resting too, of course. And the less friction to do so, the better. Lastly, number 10, think long-term.
If you can wait a decade, you're going to be above the 1%. If you can wait 10 years for an outcome, be able to do the doing without seeing the result, for 10 years, you will be able to be above most achievement of most people.
And for this one, I made an entire video about thinking long term. So the only thing I can say now is it's a mindset shift for sure. And even Alex did many short-term decisions back in the day that end up being mistakes. But as long as we commit to what we're good at, derive confidence from the fact that we do the right activities, and attach dopamine to the right things instead of the wrong things, we have the perfect recipe to think long term every day. And with that said, I hope you found these 10 tips as exciting as I am. And you should definitely subscribe to Alex's channel if you've not done it already. And Alex, if you happen to watch this, thanks a lot and keep blowing us away with your unique wisdom. I'm so grateful that you exist. And as always, I'm interested to see what you thought about and how I talk to you, amazing viewer. Which of these tips are your favorite and how are they impacting your life? Until then, thank you so much for sticking around, and always remember that you're the most amazing human being alive.